Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. Nick is here in attendance with me once more because today we're going to be going through our Monday Night Raw recap from the 15th of September edition of Monday Night Raw. So, how about we break down everything that took place across the course of the night, go into all the action, and let's discuss everything that happened throughout. First and foremost, we would start off with the never seen 17. Mr. John Cena would grace Massachusetts with his presence, and it would be a pretty standard segment for what Cena's currently at the moment. He basically talk about the history about him playing football at Springfield as an offensive lineman. He basically go on to say like how he's never really used to be the guy that was sort of like getting the newspapers or the headlines and stuff. And he would, take a lot of physical assault when he would be playing football back then. He goes on to say how that prepared him for a life in WWE, set him up perfectly. And he go on to talk about the intro from Alicia Taylor, basically saying like how that's evolved over the year. Now it gives people a chance to just be loud, to have a moment with John Cena wherever he goes, and to basically just bask in the moment. It's quite the explanation, to be fair, and I guess it makes a little more sense about why he still goes by that whole situation that he does at the start of each segment that he appears in. He talks about his upcoming opponent for WrestlePalooza and how he's damn near invincible. He looks back to matches that he's had with him in the past and how they're the most difficult he's ever had. He goes on to say that he basically goes on to say how saying no to the match, that would have been, a very smart, an easy move, whatever. But he is the last real champion in WWE. So he goes on to say that he's always fought everybody that's been put in front of him. Before saying then that as the last real champion in WWE, the role of that title is to leave WWE in a better place than when you first found it. So he highlights the importance of still being the last real champion, and he basically wants to keep WWE in a really good place. Once he does eventually leave. And obviously, we've only got 6 dates left after this, which is just getting scary now. But we're almost there, unfortunately. Because he goes on to say that he will never back down from a fight, and he won't give up, and that he will bring that fight at WrestlePalooza. He will do his damn hardest to do so. So yeah, very standard segment here from John Cena, riling up the crowd, getting them hot, getting them interested. The crowd are pretty loud here, to be fair, for John, and that's obviously always a good sign to kick off a show. And that would set the pace really nicely, because then we go into our first match of the night. We would have Lyra Valkyria taking on Roxanne Perez. And we'd have Raquel Rodriguez at ringside, not for too long though, because pretty early in the matchup, Raquel Rodriguez will actually get ejected from ringside. So not particularly doing her job too well in that sense. But Roxanne Perez, we've seen a lot of her recently, and she's been very impressive. These two had a really good match. I think it was a really nice back and forth contest between both women. Gets to a point eventually where Lyra Valkyria does pick up the victory by hitting the Nightwing on Roxy. So gets the 1-2-3. And then, as you'd expect, once the match is over, Raquel Rodriguez can come back down, lays out Lyra on the ramp, chucks her back into the ring. They beat down Lyra together. And that's until Bayley comes on down. So Bayley returns. She comes down to take out Roxy and Raquel, clears the ring of those two. Before then, she turns her attention to Lyra. So this next bit quite interesting, because Bayley, we've seen backstage segments, further vignettes, whatever. It's sort of like playing around with a psyche, not really too sure where to go, almost like a devil and an angel on a shoulder type thing about what to sort of follow and to trust and to hear more than the other. And it seemed to sort of transpire into this particular appearance from Bayley as well. So she'd sort of immediately show some sort of love for Lyra, happy to see her and whatnot. But then she would sort of go almost a bit crazy with that. And then she would go down to ringside. She'd start hugging everybody in sight. Obviously, Bayley's original gimmick being the hugger, maybe little bits of that coming back out here. And she would hug the likes of Joe Tess, Corey Graves, Alicia Taylor, Jess Carr, and then several people in the audience as well. So just a little bit of a frenzy of hugs there from Bayley. Before then, she eventually just runs up the ramp and just heads back. It wouldn't be the last time we see Bayley throughout the night as well. We would see her in bits and bobs here and there throughout. Maybe you can gloss over a little more on that in a minute, Nick, because seeing Bayley in this particular mindset is certainly fascinating. It's definitely got my interest for sure. Levels are up there. So interesting to see where exactly this is going, and is this going to be some sort of dual personality Bailey that we get going forward, because that could be quite the interesting gimmick. I wonder if that would work. Anyway, into our next matchup, we would then have Penta. He go one-on-one with Kofi Kingston in what feels like a build that's been pretty much going on for a long, long time now. And yeah, this is the next installment of that. We would have Grayson Waller and Xavier Woods on the outside. Xavier still selling the fact that he had surgery recently on his head, and they want the Canadian Destroyer banned. Apparently, I think Joe Test said that Grayson Waller supposedly has 16,000 signatures on his on his petition now. I'm not entirely sure how that's gone from like 26 to 16,000, but whatever it is, yeah, that seems to be quite the jump. But regardless of the fact, the matchup was pretty fun between both men. It goes pretty much how you'd expect it to. Xavier Woods tries to get involved at one point. Penta is able to deal with Grayson Waller pretty swiftly and easily, to be fair. And with Xavier being injured, there was no physical contact between Penta and Xavier. Just a very small sort of like coming together type thing. And yeah, Xavier just slowly gets down onto the floor. And Penta, absolutely superbly done, hits a springboard Mexican destroyer, which allows him to get the victory over Kofi. It was a thing of beauty. It's absolutely brilliant. What a way to win a match. And yeah, an incredible display from Penta. And Kofi's sell afterwards was just brilliant as well, top notch. He looked like he was absolutely seeing stars. Man thought like he was completely dead and buried there. But yeah, what a sell from him! It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, really fun match, and yeah, some good character work here from a few of these guys for sure. Then into the last part of the first half of Raw, we would get Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch coming on down to the ring. Lots of history between those two and CM Punk and AJ Lee. Seth would introduce them both before admitting that there is a lot that has to be said about AJ Lee. And, we basically just got to get this done right here, right now. AJ Lee comes out straight away, as does CM Punk, joined by her side. AJ and Punk, they sort of like head down to the ring, pretty standardly, quite slowly, just maybe playing a little bit of mind games there. Just the quirky little side of AJ Lee coming on out. And, yeah, basically, Punk responds to Seth Rollins, basically saying how he doesn't need to talk about, them behind their backs, because Seth had previously to this point just said that, that's exactly what CM Punk does. He likes to love to talk behind people's back. But going forward with this little interaction, so CM Punk would question the fashion of Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, making fun of what they're wearing, before basically comparing their entrances, saying how, you both get your songs, but, I'm more than happy to put Cult of Personality on the shelf so that we can have a little bit of Let's Light It Up. He'd go on to say how, Becky and Seth share a brain cell, as well as a wardrobe, before questioning if they can share the spotlight, and how their egos would actually sort of like collaborate, or maybe even get in the way on Saturday. So looking forward to their WrestleMania Palooza match there. Seth calls out Punk for being the most selfish person he's ever met in his life, before Becky calls the crowd the human incarnation of herpes. A very rock-style comment there from Becky Lynch. I don't think it really got heard too well, though, from the crowd. It seemed to basically just like fall like a sack of potatoes. But anyway, Seth would continue, basically saying, he's going to be unselfish for a moment. He's going to give CM Punk credit, because he says that AJ Lee coming back is the best decision he has made in his life for his personal life. As a business move, though, is a mistake that he'll regret forever, he says. AJ Lee starts to debunk Seth's theory, saying, she only came back because Seth used Becky as a shield. And then Becky questions the irresponsibility of Punk before saying that he only cares about himself, Seth's title, and AJ Lee. It'll get to a point where, have this back and forth for a little while. Not going to go into too much because there's a lot of notes here. But basically, it'll get to a point where we get a little bit of like a roles reverse type thing. AJ Lee gets up in the face of Seth Rollins at this point, and Seth says, "You know what? No, I'm not going to put my hands on a lady," as CM Punk said a few weeks ago when he brought AJ Lee out, and he said, "You know what? I know someone who will." Becky just sort of stood there like, "Okay, who's that then?" And then Seth's just looking at her like, "Well, that's you, obviously." They have a little bit of a argument in the ring. It leads to Becky actually just heading out of the ring, to be honest. She heads out to ringside, and once she does that, CM Punk and AJ Lee, let their guard down a little bit. Seth shoves Punk. They have a little bit of a chase around the ring. AJ Lee watching on from inside the ring. Becky gets back in and hits a manhandle slam. And that would pretty much be the segment there and done. But yeah, just a little bit of progression going into their tag match at WrestlePalooza. That next little step in this little story. But for you, Nick, what did you make of our opening half of Monday Night Raw? Lots to talk about here. John Cena, looking forward to WrestlePalooza there. We got Roxanne Perez and Lyra Valkyria put on a good match with Bayley. Very interesting to see what you think about that. Penta and Kofi Kingston in what was a pretty fun contest and a great finish in my eyes. And then, yeah, that segment between, the four that are having that mixed tag team match at WrestlePalooza is a fair bit to discuss.
A fair bit to discuss is a great way of putting it. John Cena kicking off the show was, kind of par for the course, I think. And nice to see him, I guess, when what will be his second to last home state appearance, or at least that's what it seems like so far. I did not know he played football. I did not know he played football there. So learned something new tonight. Not really, I don't think much else to say about that one. I mean, he brought the intensity per usual, standard John Cena promo, and looking forward to the matchup on Saturday. The Lyra Valkyria Roxanne Perez match, another good one, of course. Not as good as last week, not given as much time, but Lyra really selling that back injury from last week's match, and specifically the Tejada bomb, rightfully so. And commentary was really hyping that up as well. Makes me excited to see what they have in store for Raquel long term. But yeah, Lyra was able to overcome all that and get the win. Of course, Raquel was pushed to the back, as you already mentioned. But then, yeah, after the match, Raquel coming back, attacking and double teaming Lyra, but then Bayley coming to the save as the hugger gimmick, essentially, which, nostalgia is a powerful drug, and that was great to see on the one hand. On the other hand, the segment we see later with Lyra going up to Bayley's locker room, hear her arguing with someone else, it sounds like. Of course, we've seen enough to know that it is more than just that. It is her arguing with herself. And then when we go in there, she's back to the idiot kind of gimmick. So I guess technically that was the role model gimmick. So yeah, clearly a split personality of sorts there. I, for one, love it. It's very unique. I don't think if we have seen that. I think the closest thing I can think of off the top of my head would be like R-Truth. With kind of how his gimmicks have been lately, but that was over a course of a long period of time, and most of his kind of stemmed from confusion. But in terms of just replicating two of your past gimmicks, I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. And if you have seen an example of that, yeah, let us know, KP. But yeah, very unique. Obviously, we're both huge fans of Bayley, so very much looking forward to what they're cooking up over there. And if that is the case, is she just constantly a face and a heel? Like, it just depends on the day. Lots of interesting talking points on that one. So very, very curious to see how they make that one work. Penta, yeah, he kind of said it perfectly in that this feud has been building for a while. But Penta, decent enough match. Penta, the open brain surgery, by the way, line was fantastic. But yeah, Penta dealing with this, what seems like, months now. And Penta getting the win, overcoming the numbers game, which has always kind of been the issue here. We always thought, he's going to have to recruit someone else to be able to help him. And he didn't. He overcame them all. So what had me kind of thinking, hey, maybe this will be the end of this, quickly confirmed in another segment later on where New Day kind of gets their revenge and attacks Penta. So clearly not done. Penta just got the better of him tonight. So yeah, New Day's entertaining, and I think we've hit on that plenty. But Penta just feels like he's turning his wheels here. Then the Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, CM Punk, AJ Lee. Yeah, this was a good segment. Given lots of time and a quick tease of Seth and Becky not getting along. Almost called him Sethy there. Yeah, they were playing games, and up until now, they had been not having the upper hand. So luckily, before WrestlePalooza, they were able to get the upper hand one time here. Becky coming in to get that manhandle slam, and the bad guys here to stand tall. So I think that's probably the right call, because CM Punk and AJ Lee have been pretty dominant. Of course, AJ Lee has just returned. So, of course, that's going to happen for a bit. But yeah, very much looking forward to that. And yeah, pretty great first half of Raw for me.
Yeah, still plenty to talk about in our second half of Monday Night Raw. We would be having a match next up between El Grande Americano and Dragon Lee. A lot of history between these two guys. And yeah, this would be the next sort of step of this particular story. This was a fun match. This was really high-paced and very energetic. We've just had Worlds Collide this past weekend, and I felt like this really sort of like bounced off from that, and yeah, had a really nice feel to it, to be fair. I thought both men just went hell to leather for the early stages. It was very technical in parts, and yeah, there was a lot of high flying action too. So yeah, I think if there's anybody really sort of like having a better run at the moment than Dragon Lee, I think just the way that he's been sort of presented recently, I'd love to see someone like that, because he's just been really impressive as of late. I keep saying like how good he's been looking, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's probably in really the best run that he's been in since being in WWE, to be honest. But yeah, El Grande Americano as well. Every time I see him in the ring, you always look to the people who are going to be ringside helping out, and that's what this match was basically all about. There was a lot toward the end here. We had one of the masked men, the Americanos, whatever we're going to be calling them, come on down and try and assist El Grande Americano. That would then sort of like lure AJ Styles down to the ring, and he would come down to help him out and to sort of like count out the advantage that he suddenly gained. Then that would work up until we get a second Americano or masked man come on down to the ring. He would inflict further distraction. He would take out AJ Styles. Eventually, we would have both masked men out on the outside, and yeah, just the numbers game, just catching up to Dragon Lee. El Grande Americano locking in a submission, which was beautifully done, and yeah, getting a victory in the end via tap out over Dragon Lee. But yeah, this was a fun matchup. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun. And yeah, we had a little bit of a Spider-Man meme type thing straight afterwards with the three of them pointing at each other, which is quite a funny moment there. We go into our next match, which would, I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, which would feature Stephanie Vaquer in action. I can't remember the last time she was in the ring on Monday Night Raw, to be honest with you. It feels like forever ago. And she is, one of the women that's going to be facing off for the Women's World Championship at WrestlePalooza. So to see her in action, it sounds like a big deal. It is a big deal because it hasn't happened very often recently. She would go one-on-one with Kairi Sane, someone who's been sort of very enveloped with Io Sky, Asuka recently, tempers flaring between those two. But yeah, Kairi just basically sent in by Asuka earlier in the night saying, you know what, you're going to go one-on-one with Stephanie Vaquer, and you're going to get the job done for Io. And the match was pretty good. There were points where maybe it was a little up and down. But for the most part, it was quite a fun contest between both women. Like I say, the main takeaway here, just seeing Steph back in the ring, I think ultimately is what we want. Literally, she will be challenging for the title on Saturday. So yeah, we need to see more of her recently. Obviously, things have happened, whatnot here and there that have maybe led to her not being available and all this. But yeah, at least we finally got her in the ring. Stephanie Vaquer in the end would eventually get the victory, pinning Kairi Sane. That would provoke Asuka to get into the ring and sort of like step up to Steph, going face to face with her. And then we'd get the other challenger for the World Championship at WrestlePalooza, Io Sky, come on down to the ring. She would basically handle Asuka, say, you know what, I've got this type of situation. Asuka would leave the ring. And then, yeah, Io would then have her face to face with Stephanie Vaquer ahead of their title match coming on Saturday. So finally, a little interaction between both women. And, we might actually, this coming Saturday, get a matchup between Steph and Io, which goes the distance and no interference. So we'd love to think so. Maybe that will happen, but we'll see on Saturday. And then our main event, we would get a tag team matchup. So throughout the course of the night, LA Knight, he needs a tag partner for this one. He needs somebody to back him up. He's going to be going up against the Bronze. So he needs someone else in his corner to help him out in the tag match. And he goes to Jimmy Uso very early doors. Jimmy says no. Jimmy then has a conversation with Jay, where Jay says to Jimmy, whatever you do, do not say yes to LA Knight. Don't tag with him. We need you for Saturday. This, that, and the other. And Jimmy sort of takes offense to that kind of thing. He feels a bit struck out by that. And he eventually goes back up to LA Knight and says, you know what? Count me in. I'll tag with you tonight. The match takes place, and it's not a bad tag team match, to be fair. There's it's not the cleanest thing you'll ever see, But eventually, in the end, it is a victory for Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker. Um, it's more about what happens afterwards, I guess, because the match itself was fine. Like, it did what it needed to do, I suppose. But then when you've got the post-match situations happening, you've got Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker basically just attacking Jimmy Uso. Bron hits a spear on him, and then that sort of goes Jay into coming on down to the ring. He's going to bring a steel chair with him, takes out Bron Breakker on the ramp, gets into the ring, and turns his attention to Bronson Reed. Takes a little bit of a while, trying to bring the big man down. He eventually sends Reed to ringside before he then checks on his brother Jim. Knight comes in with a steel chair in the end, and he sort of waits for Jay to turn around. He's just there, sort of like ready with the chair. Jay does turn around very slowly, sees what Knight's doing, and they have a bit of a stare down. Knight drops the chair, and then Jay puts his hand out to show a manner of respect. There's kind of a respectful handshake type situation thing in the ring. And as Jay turns around to go back to the gym, LA Knight turns him back around and then hits a BFT for a little bit of a receipt from last week, you could say. So yeah, clearly temper's still flaring between Knight and Jay. It's been a case of both men sort of getting into their like deeper aggressive sides, I think, when it comes to this particular story at the moment. So yeah, fascinating to see where the dynamic really lies at the moment. But Nick, what did you make of all that dynamic, as well as El Grande Americano's match with Dragon Lee? Seeing Kairi Sane go up against Stephanie Vaquer, great to see Steph back in the ring again. It's been a while, and obviously that tag team match to main event.
Yeah, I thought for the most part the second half was pretty solid as well. The Dragon Lee El Grande Americano match, yeah, I thought you kind of said it pretty well there. Dragon Lee has been absolutely killing it, and I think with that, um, I think him and Penta just feel like, you know, they both are kind of just doing their thing and kind of not getting quite to where they should be. But Dragon Lee obviously hasn't been the same thing for quite as long, but getting up there as well. But yeah, the match itself was of course good, considering who we had in there, and getting that second El Grande taken out by AJ Styles to then have a third one come in and cost the match. I've said it before, I love the storyline. It's just the perfect amount of goofy and serious, and like I said, I think I've said before. I like if it ends up being like 10 of them and like a battle royal, El Grande Americano battle royal, sign me up, because that would be absolute gold. I love everything about it. And the Spider-Man meme was just the cherry on top. Is absolute perfection. Yeah, the more of that, the better. It doesn't have to be with Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee can certainly go off and do his own thing, but like you kind of said, with Penta and Dragon Lee and the El Grande Americanos here, luchadors kind of feel like they've been kind of put back in the limelight, which is great, considering we had the Worlds Collide event over the weekend that we both thought was pretty good as well. So maybe that's maybe they can kind of work back and forth. It'd be interesting to get a little more of Triple A's talent over here. I know we like similar with TNA, we kind of trade back and forth talent. It'd be interesting to see if they could get a little more Triple A talent on few men in particular that I would love to see on WWE weekly television. So yeah, I thought this was a great segment. Kairi Sane and Stephanie Vaquer, yeah, it has been a while for Vaquer. Hopefully that's rectified after maybe she wins the title, or at least comes close to doing so. Um, at WrestlePalooza will be a great match, and I thought this was a great match as well. Both women got some time, and both women, dishing out some pretty good punishment. So a valiant effort by Kairi, but unable to defeat Vaquer as she hits the Devil's Kiss and SVB to get the win. Yeah, I think obviously she had to win with her match coming up this weekend against Io. And speaking of which, she comes down to the ring, and Asuka, of course, is very close by and kind of gets in between. And then Io has some choice, basically convinces her that she's got this. And yeah, Io prevents Asuka from attacking. So another segment, I believe it was pretty shortly after this, because Kyrie's still feeling the effects of the match, and Io basically tells Asuka, "I need to do this by myself." So continuing that bit, Asuka wasn't quite as unhinged this week as she has been in recent weeks, I feel like. Um, But yeah, I'm still very interested in what they're doing with Asuka, similar to Bailey. Two of my favorites. So obviously, I'm heavily invested. But it'll be interesting to see. I feel like I don't I you've heard of the announcer's curse, of course. If an announcer says something that is going well or something, it always kind of does the opposite and turns the tide. I hopefully podcasters curse isn't real because now that you've said something similar to we'll get a clean match with Vicaire and Io. I'm kind of thinking that Asuka might come into play. Um, we'll see. I guess we'll talk about it in the predictions video possibly, and perhaps that we'll definitely talk about it afterwards. But we definitely have to note that. As for the main event, yeah, just a slight iteration in a match I feel like we've seen many, many times. Of course, we have Jimmy Uso in there this time, who I don't tell anybody, but I like Jimmy more than Jay on a normal basis. I just feel like he is better in ring, and I think he is very good on the mic. But for what that's worth, I thought the match itself was good. Obviously, the Braun Squad, Brawnies, whoever you call them, part of the vision. We're always going to pick up the win here. So I think that's the right call. And then, yeah, as you kind of mentioned, what happened after the match was much more important, and that of Jay and LA Knight. It feels like we're toying with the heel turn with these guys. Obviously, Jay was showing signs, that he giving off that tribal chief energy, if you will, and LA Knight's always been very kind of much a tweener, anyways. But he's got it out for Jay, that's for sure. And I think the feelings are mutual for each other. So I think at the very least, these guys are going to have a dispute coming up, and after WrestlePalooza, of course. Maybe we'll see something at WrestlePalooza even. But clearly, those two guys not done with each other, and I'm okay with that. I think it feels like it's been a while since we've had a good, really good feud that wasn't for a title. So Jay and LA Knight, I think both are very over, and so I think that feud could very well take us quite some time to get through. And I for one would love to see it. But yeah, a great main event and a even better kind of after match happenings. And yeah, overall for Raw, I gave this one an 8.5 out of 10. Just tons of stuff here, tons of content and tons of development. In particular, the like I said, the Asuka and the Bailey stuff, and then the third El Grande Americano. And then Becky Lynch, AJ Lee, their segment as well. Just basically from bell to bell was beginning to end was lots and lots of fun. Really enjoyed this episode of Raw.
Yeah, I thought this episode of Raw was pretty good as well. I think it checked a lot of boxes here. I think it did a lot of things right. Built towards WrestlePalooza really well. Progressed loads of stories going forward, which is what we want in wrestling. So yeah, I don't really think there's really an awful lot to complain about here and to sort of criticize too much. But yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. I think that going forward, there are a few things here to really sort of like sink our teeth into. And yeah, especially that Bailey dynamic. I'm just very fascinated by that. Like you said, we're both big Bailey fans. So yeah, that's got me very much interested. But yeah, I'm hyped for Steph and Io at WrestlePalooza. Everything to do with Grande Americano, Penta at the moment, I think it's just going really well. Yeah, lots of big positives here, and yeah, excited to see how they respond after WrestlePalooza. But for now, everybody, this has been our podcast for The Push, our Monday Night Raw recap. If you like what you heard today, then let us know in the comments, whether you agree, disagree with anything that we've said. Feel free to like our video and subscribe to our channel to keep up with later content coming out very soon as well. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. We've got a lot of content coming out this week. WrestlePalooza predictions gonna be coming up soon. NXT recap and obviously WrestlePalooza reactions as well later in the week, as well as SmackDown. So lots of content coming up your way. This has been The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you all very, very soon. See you in the next one, guys. Thank you and goodbye.